Today, we're examining how to solve a quadratic equation that doesn't appear in the form we typically see in algebra class. Here's our equation. 7 plus 25 times the quantity 2x plus 3 squared equals 0. Notice how this doesn't look like the typical x squared plus bx plus c equals 0 format we're used to. The key to this problem is understanding what's happening with this squared binomial term. Instead of having x squared directly, we have a more complex expression squared, which will require special handling. When we see a non-standard form like this, we shouldn't immediately try to expand everything. Instead, we should look for a more elegant approach that takes advantage of the squared term structure. The presence of this squared binomial suggests we can solve this equation without having to fully expand and factor. We'll see how this approach can be much more efficient. We're all familiar with the standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where we can apply the quadratic formula or factoring techniques. Our equation doesn't immediately fit this pattern. While we could try to expand our equation to match this standard form, that would involve distributing the squared term and potentially creating more complicated numbers to work with. Looking at the differences, in standard form, we have a simple x squared term, while our equation has this 2x plus 3 squared term. This structural difference will guide our solution strategy. We'll isolate this squared binomial rather than expanding it. Let's clear the screen and focus on solving our equation. We'll take advantage of the structure to find a more elegant solution than simply expanding everything. Our approach will be to isolate the squared binomial term first, then work with that to find the values of x that make the equation true. When dealing with equations like this, we want to isolate the squared term and then take the square root of both sides. This is much simpler than expanding the entire expression. We're starting with the equation 7 plus 25 times 2x plus 3 squared equals 0. This is a quadratic equation, but it's not in the standard form we're used to seeing. To begin solving this equation, we need to isolate the squared term containing our variable x. This will make it easier to eventually solve for x. We'll subtract 7 from both sides of the equation. On the left side, 7 minus 7 equals 0, leaving us with just 25 times 2x plus 3 squared. On the right side, 0 minus 7 gives us negative 7. Notice that when we move a term from one side of the equation to the other, its sign changes. The positive 7 on the left becomes negative